Does it say live?
It said preparing, and yeah, now it's live.
Now it's live. Okay, great. Perfect. They shut off. So if you can do me a favor, Felipe, check, make sure that this is on. When it shuts off, let us know. Okay? Yeah.
First, last.
Okay, first. Okay, first, last, phone. And then the last one is upload forecast. Yes, no. Okay? And put yourself number 1. Okay, everybody here? Everybody have their name tags to start? Okay, so we have exam. We'll do a review. Today we'll go over especially privacy, security, let me put a notes here. The exam will be October 10th. We'll start here in the classroom at 6:30. So what I'd like you to do is make sure that you bring a pictured ID and pencils. And you can also bring pens as well. The exam will be 2 parts. One will be multiple choice, true, false. And it'll be covering the book, the readings, and the open-ended we'll discuss. Okay? Okay. We'll say, is this working? Is this on?
Yeah.
Let me just see here. Let me just see if this is working. Is this working?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, both of them are working. We have them both live. Thanks. Okay. All right. Both are live. Both say they're live. Okay, so we have this of the readings. So let's go to courses. A couple of things is, let me just go to course documents. Let me just also with my speaker here, reduce the sound. Can you reduce the sound on your side? Because we're hearing it. Please, thank you. All right. Yeah, thank you. Let's go to the PowerPoint 4th edition. And I'd like to do, I'm going to just download just so we'll have it. Chapter 1. And I'll go back here. And especially chapter 4. And we go here in chapter 9. Okay. And another one that you have here. Let me just go back. And you have here automated trading systems. Have we gone over this PowerPoint? Yes, no?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So the idea of the power money of automated training, put that in your notes here. That will look at automated algorithmic software trading systems and big data. And the idea of big data, remember that's the key for all this new technology is what? Data, 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 and how do I make data more, to make sense out of the data? How do I make decisions from my data? And we talk about, you need to know the idea of what's an algorithm. And we talk about the idea, and why do we do this exercise with the forecasting? Some of you came back to me, a lot of you were here when we had the open session here, that we did this forecasting. The idea, how tedious would it be that every day we have to download the data, not for one company, but how many? Maybe thousands of companies, try to find the best forecast. And how will we do that? We don't want to do it manually. What do we want to do? We want the computer to do it. But in order for the computer to be able to do it, we have to know what are the steps to do. So that's what we're doing in our forecasting exercise, is trying to find what are the steps, what were the steps, what's the first step for our exercise? Kelly, what was the first step for your exercise? You did the exercise.
For the forecasting,
What was the first step?
well, I first had to go back on the Yahoo Finance and get all the historical.
So, and how would you do it? You have a URL. What's a URL? What's a URL stand for?
Hi.
Hi.
I just
I thought you were going to give us some news or something.
Happy FSU Hate Week.
What?
Happy FSU Hate Week.
Okay, where was I? We needed, what's a URL?
Uniform resource locator.
A what?
A uniform resource locator.
Very good. So it's a uniform resource locator, and it means what? That if I go to any website, right, that's going to be the URL. So the first step is what? The first step is to find, right, is to put in the URL, which is what then? Kelly?
Oh, the next step after that?
No, but what is the URL?
The universal resource.
I know, but what is the URL that you're going to in order to do the forecast?
It's just whatever's in the top search.
Which is what? Read it.
I have to pull up my Excel, I'm sorry.
Okay, but what is it? Who can help her? Where would you go? Huh?
Yahoo Finance.
Yahoo Finance, right?
Uh-huh.
Yahoo Finance. And what we probably start doing is the Yahoo Finance, right? And then basically, what did you use? You used one company. What company did you use, Kelly?
Johnson and Johnson.
Johnson and Johnson. What's their symbol?
J&J.
J and J. So it's J and it's what? An N? A
No,
N
it's
D?
just an N.
N N J N J, right?
Yep.
So I have J and J is the symbol, and then what was the next step? I bring that into Excel, and then what?
I made the graph with the date. and
Right,
the-
and you know what? Basically, you would do the graph. So basically, you want all those steps to be recorded as part of your algorithm. Sometimes, when we're recording all those specific steps, a clearly defined aim to carry out a task or a process. And then you created then what? The linear, then you created the polynomial, and then you went to a certain cell. All those cells, all of that can be automated. Sometimes they call the automation with that algorithm a set of clearly defined instructions and tasks, and then we can do automated tracks in the process of using computer programs to follow a defined set of instructions for placing a trade in order to generate processes. A lot of times we call these as possibilities with these algorithms. When we automate them, we also call them bots, B-O-T. BOT like robot. Anybody hear about it like a robot? In the way for software, it's called then software robot. And based on those algorithms, so that's what we're doing. And then we talked also about the high frequency, right, would be fractions of a second, or we would have those software trading robots. Now, my question, you're on a roll, Kelly. So the idea is she has one Johnson & Johnson. And how well did your forecast work? Was it underestimated or over? What did your forecast say Johnson & Johnson would do?
Well, I forecasted a bunch of different dates, so.
Okay.
So
it said it was going to go up. Your forecast said it was going to go up or it was going to go down.
Twice.
What did your what does your chart look like?
The first two I forecasted were, the actual was greater than the forecast.
No, but what did your forecast before you did the what is your you had a graph, right?
Yeah.
And what does your graph look like? It's going up or it's going down? Okay.
It's loading.
All right, let me go to mine. Where did I have mine? In Excel forecast.
Yeah.
So let me download it.
The linear had it going up and the polynomial had it going down.
Okay, so basically one was saying up and the other one, and in reality what happened? Did it go up or did it go down based on the forecast?
For the first 2 dates I forecasted, with the dates I used to forecast, it went up, but then I forecasted for this past Monday with all the previous dates, and my actual was lower than what the forecasted was.
Okay, so it was mixed.
Yeah.
Okay, and it looks like it was the same thing as what your forecast said. One said up and one said down. So my rule could be, James, that when my polynomial and my linear agree, then only trade. Because now they're in conflict. So what would the rule be? So you'd write out the rule. If my polynomial and my linear were in the same direction, then trade. Or when my polynomial and my linear are trending up, then buy. When my polynomial and my linear are trending down, then do what? Sell or short, what they say. Got it, Felipe? So that's basically the same idea. Now, you'll get excited over this, or at least I will. Right? I don't know about you guys, okay? So these are the basics of my algorithm. So I'll just open up this. So some of you may want to, we're looking at it, is we're starting with Excel. And my question to you, Kelly, do I just want to do one stock, you think? All the time, Johnson & Johnson. Are there other stocks I would look for?
Well, I would look for different ones.
You would look for different ones. Which ones would you look for?
One I wouldn't look for was UNH, which I think was United Health.
Okay.
That went down every time I forecasted it.
Okay, and did your model say that it was going to go down, or did your model say it was going to go up?
It said it was going to go up, both of them.
Okay.
So that was different.
So let's look at J&J. So J&J, if I look at this one, this is J&J, right? And if I basically, my strategy here, right, is I could then forecast. Let me just do this. Let me go to File, and I need data, right? So this is a platform called NinjaTrader, and in this case, I want to connect to my data, and right now, I can get an external data feed that I can get daily data, not only looking at the end of the day, but I could get it basically every tick. So I could think about the idea of big data. I could get it for every tick, and in here I'm just going to go to end of day. Let's see if we'll get my data. Okay, and if I get end of day here, and let me just get a chart. And in this one, let's do J and J. Okay, and if it's the end of the day, and I say okay, let's say if it'll load my data. Oh, it's a minute, I don't want a minute, I want daily. Certificate. Let's see here. File, new, chart. And then I'll do J and J. Let's just even do what it has here. Let me just do IBM just for now. Anyways. And then, let's see here, I have true. And let me just say, okay, let's see if it gets my data. Okay, this is my daily data. Now let me see if I can do J and J. Okay. You see here I have my strategy. And I want to do a strategy on this. And this strategy, and I want to enable it from false. I want to make it what, William? True. And now I want to apply. And I want to say okay. Okay. So everywhere where it has basically my algorithm, you see here, my trading algorithm says buy here, right? And then this dotted green means what? You think?
It's the trade.
The dotted green was, did I make money or lose money?
You made money.
I made money, right? And if I go backwards, right, it says sell short right here. And then, did it go down or up?
The stock went down.
The stock went down, so did I make money or lose money?
You made money.
I made money because I bet it was going to go down. And if I go back here, I thought then here sell short, and I made money here. Here it says buy and it went down, so I didn't do so well here. But this is my algorithm that I have here. And if I want to see how well I did, I would go to strategy performance. Everybody see that? And I would go my sample crossover, and what am I looking for? Horizontal, historical and real time. And how well did this strategy work all together? Kelly, look at my total net profit.
Not too good.
Yeah, it's all red.
It's all red. So I want to check more than one stock. And do I want to do it manually?
No.
So what I would do is I can create in automated trading systems what they call a strategy analyzer. And I can create, in this case, I could create then a number of my own stocks. So I could, if I wanted to, I could go to File, New, and I could then I could go even to basically Tools, and I could do a historical instrument manager where I could create then my own list of stock symbols. So I could create healthcare stocks, and I could give it a list of symbols, and I could tell them, go through my 100 or 300 or 50 stocks and do it every day. And find me the best stock to trade for that day. Do you understand that, Kelly? So what did you understand?
You can do this every day and have it go through and tell you which one of your stocks you have.
Or I could do, right. So and that's the automated systems. And then I could then modify my model, modify my algorithm to hone in when the market changes. And as I said before, what I'll be able to do, then I would be able to, you see here where it said edit Ninja script, I have something called an indicator and a strategy. An indicator, you can put this in your notes, an indicator is equivalent to a function in Excel. An indicator is equivalent, Daniel, to a function in Excel. A strategy is a combination of indicators with a decision to buy or sell. Yes, Elvira.
You have to know the definition by heart for the exam for the
Which one?
indicator strategy of
You just have to know what it is, yeah. I'm giving you an overview of what automated trading systems are. Okay. So an indicator is like a function. A strategy is a combination with if-then and telling the computer when to buy or when to sell. So, Elvira or Elvia? Huh?
Elvia?
Elvia, like Sylvia Elvia. Okay, on that, it's easy for me now. Okay, now I'm going to go to strategy. So, how about working with me, okay? Elvia. Okay. So I'm going to go to our sample MAS crossover. And you remember we talked about source code? Did we talk about source code?
Yeah.
So what's source code?
It's the actual coding of the program.
It's the instructions to the computer. It's similar to an algorithm. An algorithm is built in many times in source code. This source code, just so you know, this is an example of what one type of source code looks at. Whatever's in green is for the end user to understand. And the others are instructions to the computer. Who's had programming classes? Okay, 1, 2. Okay, the rest of you are going to learn how to program. How much time do I have to know? Okay, so basically, if I look, this is source code. And you remember my chart? Everybody remember my chart? Let me move this here. Remember when I said file, new, chart? You remember? And I did, let me just do IBM, right? And I said, okay. Let's see here. This is not good. Damn. Did I lose my data? Let me just do it down. Let me just do this. Yeah. Okay, remember this? You remember this? Enable. What do I change it to? What do I change it to? Elvia, what do I change it to? From true to make it, from false to make it what?
True.
True, wow. And then say okay, then say okay. Remember this? I have two moving average. One is what? Is kind of gold, yellow. The other one is green. And notice when one crosses, one time I buy, when the yellow crosses, I sell. You remember here, when the yellow goes above, I buy. And notice here, when the yellow goes above the green, I buy. Keep that in mind. You're with me, Elvia?
Yes.
Okay. Now, let's look at this. Now you read this to me.
Me?
Yeah. Well, instead of left to right, anybody know any languages that are from right to left?
Arabic?
What?
Arabic?
Arabic, right? Arabic, Hebrew. So we're going to pretend like we know that. Do you know Arabic or Hebrew?
No.
Okay, we're going to learn. Okay. So we're going to learn languages. Okay, so what does it say?
Orange?
Orange color, the pen color. That's my fast plot. We had an orange color, right? What is? Then let me move to the next one. You're on a roll. What does the next one say?
Green?
The color, right of the pen. That's my slow. So I had those two lines, one green and one yellow, right? So I'm going to add the fast and the yellow, right? I'm going to calculate. And now read this for me, line 52. If we go above, right? If the fast is above the slow, what are we going to do?
Enter one?
Meaning what? Buy or sell?
Buy.
Else, if it goes below,
We don't buy.
we enter a short. That's it. That's the logic. So in terms of strategy, what's the difference between an indicator and a strategy? The indicator was the simple moving average. One of those lines, right? Like a function. The strategy tells me the if-then rule. That's all there is. And this code you can create with a wizard. So Ty, if you don't know how to program, you just have a wizard like English-like, and I say, if it's above, I want to do what? I want to enter a long position. If it goes below, I want to enter what, Cindy? A short position. That's all there is, and then it can produce the code. And then what I can do, Kelly, is I can then group all my stocks together on that item and give it an instrument list and tell it, go ahead and optimize and find for me the best stocks for that day, for the forecast, and then we see if it's correct, and if then we modify it each time. So what you were doing in Excel, since everybody had Excel, you were doing it a number of times so you could see what was the pattern. But you don't want to do that, Emma, every day. No way. What you want to be able to do is just to review the results and then have your team then modify it when it's not making money, or don't go into the trade. Or like James was saying, when the polynomial and the linear are in the same direction, then buy. That would be then my if-then statement. Questions? So how could you then, Felipe, summarize that for us, what we just did?
We just looked at the stocks chart at first, and then we opened its source code or its strategy. We looked at its indicators, which were just the two moving averages,
Right,
and then we gave it two conditions to trade.
right. And that's my strategy. So you do understand, Avia? So that's basically my indicators are basically like my functions that I can do, and I can do it for then the healthcare industry and just do it for those doing it. And this is part of then using big data. And Cindy, what's better for all these stocks if I do it is using that big data. But I could use that big data, these same type of algorithms of our healthcare data just as well. We're just doing it in terms of forecasting. Okay, questions? Okay, so I wanted to show you this part when we're dealing with the forecasting, that this would be a platform just for trading. Do you understand, Kelly? So instead of doing, it's doing the, I can use then the same, I can add then the same kind of forecast. So if I go to indicators, you see here where it says strategies, you see here where it says indicators? And what were we doing before is if I end up looking at, you see this? Deb, what is this? Where's Deb?
I'm right here.
Okay, you're all the way in the corner.
Yeah.
So this is going to be hard for you. This says LinReg.
Right.
So this is basically linear regression that we're doing, but I can put the linear regression then on, you see this? This is my yellow, this is my linear regression. I can put it onto mine. I can do my indicators. This I don't want to do. I can do my indicators under, I have my linear regression. You see here I have my intercept, I have my slope. I have a regression channel, and I'm going to say apply and say okay. I can do my regression channel, and then I can do an indicator. Let me do my regression channel. I can do, where's my apply? Okay. This is my regression channel. Do you see this, Deb?
Yes.
The two blue lines?
Yes.
So maybe I make my regression channel, and what could possibly be my strategy? When it hits my lower
Regression.
channel, the lowest part of my regression, what should I do? What do you think I should do? What would be maybe a good thing to say, to look at?
You would want to sell the stock.
What?
So you would want to buy it.
Huh?
But you want to buy it.
Right, I want to enter along. When it reaches the top of my regression channel, what do you think I should do probably?
Look into selling some shares.
Enter short. When it gets to the bottom of my regression channel, what do you think I should do?
Buy a lot.
And that may be a good, you see how that may be a good
Right.
strategy to write. Just based on my regression channel, when it hits the, basically,
What's the blue number?
what?
You see a blue for the bottom channel? What's the number? 138 something, I can't read it.
Yeah, 130,
So,
139,
so if it
55.
goes below 139, start buying it. If it goes above.
Yeah, but I could, right, but it basically said when it hits my bottom,
Right.
buy, when it hits my top, Felipe, enter short. And then I can write a strategy. Everybody think, so that's basically what I'd be able to do in terms. So I just wanted to give you an overview, because people were asking, okay, now what am I going to do with this regression? And Emma, you don't want to do it all the time, right? So basically, you would program this, and every day, basically, you would check to see, am I making money? As soon as I start losing money, what would you do? I want to either get out of that stock or even change models or stop trading or even give a symbol. As soon as I start losing at a certain percentage, Kelly, what would you tell? You tell the computer, stop trading. Because guess what? When it goes so fast, it can lose my money quicker than I can, manually. But when it starts doing it, but then I can just monitor it. From my phone, right? So Emma's on her phone now. What she could do is then she could check then on her strategy to see, it gave her an alert and saying, hey, you can go to the beach now. You're doing well for today. Okay. Questions? So did that help? Alvia. So you got it? not, and I wanted to give you an idea of what then that source code was.
Very easy to understand.
What? It's easy to understand, and I just wanted to make it, they make it a lot more difficult than what it really is. Okay? So we have this. So we need to know in terms of, we talked about it before, the idea of confidentiality and privacy. We talked last time about the CIA, which was what? What was it?
Confidentiality.
Yeah.
Integrity. And
Integrity
access.
and accessibility, right? And basically, here we're talking about PHI, and what's PHI? By the way, in terms of your exam, you can bring with you a sheet backwards and forwards on all your acronyms. When it says PHI, you don't have to memorize what is PHI and all the acronyms. We can spend our time doing more useful opportunities here. So PHIs are my protected health information. We talked about the breaches, and we talked about the HIPAA, which is the Health Insurance Portability. So all of these acronyms you can put in your sheet that you bring to class.
Professor?
Yes.
So we are allowed to bring in one cheat sheet?
Uh-huh.
Okay,
With acronyms.
only acronyms.
Only acronyms. Okay? So, so you can bring that, but I just don't want you to waste your time, you know what I mean? Memorizing acronyms. That's why we have Google, right? So, the idea is nobody's going to ask you about the acronyms, but what they're going to do is how can you solve problems? And that's what I want to spend the time in the class about, is how can we spend time with the issues of our algorithms. Okay? So what you need then, let me just the Privacy Acts, right? Confidentiality of your records, and this is the key here. You need to know what the HIPAA privacy rule is. Versus the HIPAA security rule. What is the HIPAA security rule? Who can tell me? Emma. What does it contain?
It's not the electronic PHI.
Okay.
That's
Does it?
nice.
So what's the difference? Who cares? So basically, it's going to deal with the security rule. It's going to then deal with only the electronic part. Does it deal with the paper part? No. So it's not going to deal with the paper part. So this is what you're going to need to know here. Then it's only then that PHI that's transmitted or maintained in the electronic form. So that's going to be the difference. So you need to know the difference between the security rule versus the HIPAA privacy rule. So put that in your notes here. And the security rule deals with risk. Why? Because nothing is 100% certain. So what you need to do in any security system is you have to minimize your risk by placing controls. was just outside today in front of my house in Coral Gables, and a little electric vehicle came by, and it was now the Coral Gables safety guy. And he comes and he asks me, am I a resident here? So I said yes, and he says, well, I'm here to just check out the neighborhood. And I said, well, what are you police? No, but I can contact police. And what is he supposed to do? To see if there are any doors open, to see if garage doors are open, to see if people have unlocked cars, to prepare. So basically, they're considering what? Some type of controls, and they're seeing what is basically the vulnerabilities for that assigned and deciding who is going to be responsible and the authorization and who is going to be addressable. So, you remember we talked about the breaches, Hall of Shame, when do people end up going to jail? Everybody understand my question? In those breaches and halls of shame, what does the government attest to being when you go to jail? When do you get fined? When do people get fired?
After the fact that they broke the law.
Well, what's breaking the law? Yeah, Frank.
If they were negligent.
If they're negligent, right? If I haven't done the proper controls, they're not going to say if I ever get hacked, you will be put in jail. But if I haven't put any controls, if I haven't trained my workforce, right? If I haven't assigned a proper security responsibility, if I haven't done my risk assessment, then I've been negligent. So this is the key. If you look at that information access, if I haven't done security awareness and training for my workforce, if I haven't told them that they have to check for their passwords, if I haven't done any type of reporting for their instance, if I haven't done a contingency plan, being I'm going to back up my data, I have a disaster recovery plan, I've tested those materials, this is the key. And then what you need to know then, and then I've put this in terms of the security rule, that you know that there's administration, and you can put this in your notes here, there's administrative, physical, and technical controls. So the physical controls would be saying, hey, you better have some standards of physical controls. Physical controls would be like what?
Changing equipment,
What?
switching equipment.
Okay,
Yeah,
what
yeah,
else? Locking my doors, right? Having
Security
physical,
cameras.
I have security cameras, I have security personnel, right? I have basically all my facilities then are authorized. Did I tell you about what happens here in Memorial? These doors are locked when?
10
Hmm?
p.m. 10 p.m.
10 p.m. And when do they open?
7.
Maybe 7, right? Because what? I know that this is when it's supposed to be done. How do they set this up? Do I have someone come around with a key and lock every morning? How's it done, Deb?
There's a swiper,
Well, there's a swiper, but we didn't swipe when we went
an
in.
automatic lock that's probably connected to some IP address or something.
Right, or some basically electronic way that I can do the whole building, right? And I can say from 7 to 10 p.m. A couple of years ago, after spring break, come into the classroom, and we have these computers here, and we have these projectors. I'm ready to start class, right? You know, after spring break, you're a little bit tired. I'm ready to start class, and I didn't bring my laptop, so I went to the computer here, and I wanted to project, and there was no computer, and there was no projector. And then we have apples inside here. So I said, well, maybe I'll switch classrooms. I went to the other classroom and there was no Apple computer there either. Checked in the other classroom, there was no Apple computer here.
They installed the computers?
They were not there. So what happened? So you, as my control people, you're in head of my, you're my chief security officer, Alvia, right? What do you think happened?
Someone came in and installed the computers, obviously.
Someone came in and stole the computers, and then you said, what controls did I put on? What do we have up on the
Well,
ceiling?
They'll have to check on the cameras to see if they can identify the suspect.
Maybe.
There's probably a way to check to see if the door is locked electronically to the end.
And it seems like somebody came in, so what happened? And this was after spring break, that's the hint.
Someone that also might be working for the company.
They could be an inside deal. What other ideas? Everybody understand what the scenario is? After spring break, I come into one room, there's no equipment. Go to the next room, no equipment. And even me, right, that's not the smartest in the world, could figure out something's wrong. So what's the idea? Yes.
They forgot to change the security system so that during spring break it's always locked.
Bingo. So what they did is for the whole semester, right? When does the semester start? Let's out for that spring semester. Let's say January 17th. When does it end? May, let's say 15th. Every day, Monday through Friday. But what did they forget? Well, how long is spring break?
A week.
A whole week. And those security cameras, first of all, there was no, it seemed like it wasn't like motion detection. Right? You remember how I was saying here, is it following me, that camera? Or is there a buzz here? So there may be not even, first of all, do we even know if that works?
No.
No clue. So let's say in good times it's working, right? But have you ever seen that when they're always looking for the suspect and they always say, hey, the cameras didn't work, right? Have you ever seen that in the TV, right? The camera, only on that day the cameras, they probably never work. But I used to always have that thing where I used to have an old Honda Civic, and I used to have my brother-in-law as an electrical engineer, so I told him, put in a false little alarm system that it looks like it's blinking, and it wasn't even worth putting in an alarm system, right? So it's the same thing, or, that dog, right, have a dog sound, that my dog's barking, right? So I have this. Okay, so these are the cases that you need to check on these. So these are my physical access controls, right, that I'm going to be able to, so I'm going to be able to do those facilities, right, the workstation, right, make sure. And then I have access controls. What are access controls? We know what physical controls are. What are access controls? Who can tell me? Lauren, can you tell me? What are access controls? Who can help her? What are access controls, James?
Given your authentication, it's what you're allowed to have.
Who can have access to the system, right?
Yeah.
Who can not only have, who's unique, who has access, who has automatic log-offs, right? Just like we've done here, and who has access to the audit area, and who has access to the regular system, right? Who has those access, who has those controls, right? Are you who you are, right? Automatic log-offs. So these are the areas, encryption, decryption. And these have to be then, if you think about these, right, of my access controls. And then I need my technical controls. So here are the ideas that I have. We talked about the HIPAA breach notification rule, right? HIPAA enforcement policies, right? Of what's going to be, if I'm not going to be the violation categories, what are my fines, right? What do I care about my fines, and when am I going to go to jail, right? And then in addition here, PHI under false pretenses, PHI for personal gain gets another tier up to 10 years in jail. What gets 5? PHI under false pretenses and reasonable cause or no knowledge of violation up to 1 year. So these are, I get civil penalties, these are my physical penalties, right?
You want us to also learn each one of the categories and their penalties, or just the...
No.
No?
No. To know. Don't you think so? But just have the idea that if you're gonna go, you know what, you're gonna be, am I gonna go to jail, right? So you better do threats to healthcare information. Okay, these are the viruses that I can do. We talked about last time, ransomware, know the difference between a virus, right? It's gonna be shared among computers, a Trojan horse. A lot of times these viruses, they have a number of them together, so it's difficult to know which one, but that's gonna be basically the virus is designed to look like a safe program, and I'm going to try to steal some personal information. Spyware tracks the internet activities. Worms are going to be software code that's going to replicate, and ransomware, we talked about it. Okay, what else do we need? Lead your culture, document, I think, develop, okay, a pan. Okay, these are, I would know this table right here. You were asking me, Alvia?
Yes.
Is this table right here. The security component of administrative safeguard, what are examples of vulnerabilities? You can put this in your notes then.
Okay.
That table 7.4. Is it 7 point? No, I guess it's not, it's in 9.4. I guess 9.4.
9 point.
Yeah. So it's the examples of vulnerabilities, example of security and mitigation strategies, my physical safeguards, my technical safeguards, my organizational standards, and my policies and procedures, especially these three. So examples, what are administrative, you should know what are administrative, what are examples, and examples of security mitigation strategy. What does mitigation strategies mean? Yeah.
Plan to reduce impact if there were.
Right. It's basically, I want to minimize, basically that idea is security is designated, training, right? A security risk is performed periodically. I basically can reduce those. Physical building alarms are installed. Here, officer screens or shield. But what I would add to this is there has to be updates to it. Even though, notice here, building alarm systems, they're installed, but do they work? In this case, right? And, oh, I forgot to tell you. That 1 year that it happened, right? Then they checked the cameras and they couldn't find, they didn't let me know what really happened in the cameras, right? But guess what? The next year, at least we always, what does your mother always tell you? It's great to make mistakes, but we always want to do what? We want to learn from our mistakes. So the next year, after spring break, I always like to teach in this building, so next year, guess what happened? Come back after spring break.
You couldn't get in.
I got it. That was another time when I had those last semester. That was another issue, right? Because I was such a good professor. I said, you know, on reading day, let's meet in the classroom and we'll do a review. And of course, on reading day, I come in and the classroom's locked. And I said, why is it locked? You know, and they said, well, you didn't tell us that you're coming in, right? I said, it's Monday. But anyways, next year, what do you think?
It goes with everyone, they get stolen again.
They weren't there again. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. The same, you know, it was like I guess even the thieves didn't think they were that stupid. You know what I mean? They said, hey, after we stole, right, you'd think that they would have learned, and no. The same, and probably it was either we didn't learn our lesson or they changed positions and somebody else was in charge of doing it. And isn't it easy? They probably had a little template. When's the beginning of the semester? When's the end of the semester? Monday through Friday, and then they did it again. It was just amazing. So all of these security issues is not just that we have it check, but you have to get actually somebody to see if it works. It's so simple, isn't it? But it's just like, you know, I got an alarm system, but what happens? Does it actually work, you know? Or does it go off when I don't need to? Or after a while, you know, it's almost like people don't pay attention to the car alarms, right? It's just we've done those. So the physical ones, the technical ones, then you can see here, secure user IDs and passwords, role-based routine audit, anti-hacking, make sure not only that it's installed, but it actually works. Contingency plans are in place, but you know, have you ever seen when a hurricane comes, then you actually see that people don't know how to do their contingency plans? They're on paper, data are encrypted. The data can be encrypted, but can they be hacked? And that's why they have, has anybody heard about this? They call them white hat hackers. Anybody hear about them? What they are? What do you think they are? It's white hat hackers.
Good hackers.
They're good hackers. How can you be a good hacker? Companies hire them.
Oh, to see potential vulnerabilities into.
I know a number of people. I'll invite them here. That's a good idea, don't you think? I'll invite some white hackers here. And basically what they do is they, with your permission, go into your system and they see if they can hack it. Because what does that mean to you in this case? What did they say here? It's so naive. Anti-hacking and malware software installed. And then, James, you're the CEO of a hospital, right? They say, hey, and then you say, and you ask your IT people, have you installed it? And they say, yes. What do you know? You're not a hacker, right? So basically what you do is you would then hire a group to, and you let them know, they let them know ahead of time, and they even check for social engineering. What's social engineering?
When you trick someone that you're
Right. So basically, they'll go even in social engineering to your staff and say, you know what, Cindy, you know, I'm part of IT, you know, we're going to really need to change our passwords, and I know your username is probably Cindy something at, and we're going to need to change your password. So I'm going to send you something. Can you put in your old password, and we'll switch to your new password? And she wants to be a good doobie, right? And she wants to be compliant, and she gives you, you know, her old password. And then you'll list them, or you'll send a number of people spoofing, you know, with links, and then you'll see who among those people in your organization clicked on those links.
Well, they wouldn't alert the people though that they're doing this, right?
Well, it's of course. Well, if Cindy, I'm going to send you a false alert, right? What's that going to do?
Yeah, but you said that when they do the hacking, they would ask for permission.
Well, they have to have the permission from you.
Don't you want them to hack so you know that?
Well, yeah, but you have to. You as James Roldan, the CEO or the CIO of the
From the
hospital,
CEO.
right?
Okay.
You're the CEO. You have a small group of people that are going to give them permission, because what's going to happen is if your IT people are really good, they'll be hacking and they'll stop them, you know, and then they'll get their IP address and they'll report them to the FBI and to the police, you know, if they're really, really good. So you have to give them, but you don't want to tell your entire group that it's like, you know, I'm gonna be testing here, and I'm gonna tell Cindy, you know, we're going to be sending you a fraudulent email. So if she knows it's a fraudulent email, we want to see on an everyday basis how Cindy's going to respond. And then we'll have to do security training and say, to teach our people, they shouldn't be clicking on links all the time.
Right.
So that's what they're doing, but I'm letting you know here that this has to be actually tested, rather than you saying, check, they told me in IT that the software was installed. But what do you care if the software was installed? If every guy, now you can buy a lot of these hacking devices. You don't even have to be a programmer. You just buy it off the internet and you can hack, you know, in these ransomware. So these are areas in which you want to make sure that you proceed. Okay? Questions? So in this area, so the idea of protecting your mobile devices, what else? Plan for the unexpected. Everybody knows kind of strong passwords and control physical access. You have to be able to do it. Now, there's something called NIST. Anybody know what that is? So let's go to Google. NIST, Cyber Security Framework, Healthcare. Let's put. So, NIST stands for what? Anybody know? Look it up. It's NIST. You should know.
National Institute of Standards and Technology.
Yeah, the National Institute of Standards. Every country has a National Institute of Standards. And this National Institute of Standards is used in every industry. What is it, Danny? Have you heard about it? It basically allows us to set up standards. So you're an organization, you follow some type of framework that everybody relies on. And you can see that this, you can write this down, basically, is what I want to do, the framework that I want to use gives me standards, guidelines, and best practices on how to manage cybersecurity related risk. It's always going to be a risk, and I want to protect the resilience of my critical infrastructure. What does that mean? I think about it in hospitals. Why do they attack hospitals besides their weak controls and their non-sophisticated organizations? Is it's life and death. I go to Felipe and he's in charge of he's my IT director. And I go to, let's say, Yami, and she says, you know, I had enough of these hospitals. I'm going to work for the university. In this case, I'm going to just go to academics, and I'm going to be in charge of the memorial building. What really, if they hack into this computer here, or even if they stole it, was it life and death when I came on Monday morning and taught the class? Guess what? Okay, I don't have a computer, I can teach on the board. Everybody's going to live, everybody's going to survive. But Felipe, that's in charge of that hospital, and Monday morning they're going for surgery, and Felipe say, hey, we're down on our system, they won't let us in. What would you probably tell them? And we can't wait for 3 weeks for the FBI to come, and they may even not find them. Basically, maybe Felipe said, you know what, James, let's set up a Bitcoin account and they're only asking $40,000 or $30,000 worth of Bitcoin. Felipe said, you know, we got to be up and running, and these desperate people here on the floor, it may be worth it for them. You know, he doesn't want to do it every time, but gee, he has to be in business. So that's why you need to do it. So one of the things put this in your notes here, you need to know is on the National Institute of Security, basically you need to know, I need to know in this framework what to identify as terms of where I'm vulnerable. What do I need to protect? Now I have to protect a lot of things. Felipe, what else do you have to protect? Not only your actual physical computers, but what? All those IoT devices that are connected to the internet, are they being controlled? And somebody sells it to you. Have they put in the proper security? What do you know? And can you test it? And when you get those white hackers that James is going to do they even know how to hack into those devices? And you don't want them to hack into devices where somebody's on a heart monitor, right? And all of a sudden they hack into it, right? And that person dies, right? So you're going to have to be able to do those kind of things. So I have to protect. Then once I protect it, now I have to detect whether they got in or not. Just like I gave you that operation, we had our cameras and nobody could detect that there was somebody stealing. Right? Do I do it after? And then how am I going to respond? Once I have been infiltrated, Felipe, how are you going to respond immediately? Where are you going to do that? Do I have a software that's going to do it? Do I have hardware? Who do I contact in the organization to come reboot the computers? and then how do I recover? Does that not make sense?
It does.
And this is a framework that you think about, oh, that's a no-brainer, but people need to have rules and being trained to do that. Because if you say, what does James do? James goes to you, Felipe, and say, are we protected? And you go, yeah. Right? And you could be conscientious, but hey, did we identify what part? And then James has to ask you, what have we identified in this organization? It's just not the doors being locked. It's just not that my security cameras, right, are working. But can anyone else hack into? Those are IP cameras. What's an IP mean?
Internet protocol.
So that means what? It's on the internet. And if I can hack into the password, first of all, we don't even know if it has a password, right? And how vulnerable that password is. But if it were, now I'm going to see is somebody should hack into that to see. And now they could even see if somebody's here or not. Right? Or being able to go outside and, steal those babies, in the hospitals when you always hear about one time, somebody stole the baby, right? Where's the baby? So you can see identify, protect, and respond. So this is the institution, and you have specifically in healthcare. So know these. Now when you hear it, Alvia, that sounds a no-brainer. And even if I asked you to identify it, you could. I have to identify it, then I have to protect it, now I have to detect it, and then if I get screwed, I have to I have to know how to respond, and then how do I get up and running? So this is that key that you can see that I can, and look at it for healthcare as well, that there's certain ones that for this framework here in the success stories, online learning for the NIST. So let me move this a little bit higher there. So look at this. Now it makes sense. See, identify. This is coming from that cybersecurity framework. So identify, so you can see within this, what does this mean even? And who cares? It's basically, if James is my CEO here, he has to say, make sure that this is being done by his organizations. And he has to make sure that we're going to contain my assets. I have to know what my business environment is, and I have to know who's going to be controlling any of this. I need to say what data is being controlled, right, Yami? I have to figure out what data, who's responsible for that data. Everybody says, oh, give it on Felipe. And Felipe says, hey, wait a minute. I'm the IT director. I'm not control. I don't decide what data goes into the database. Do you know? So and then you can think about protect. That's where my access control. This is how I'm going to protect. I'm going to give proper awareness and training. This is where I'm going to give data security. This is where I'm going to protect information protection. That's under my protect, right? So this way I can then produce this that I can do for all of it. I can look at it. And look at this. You get excited, right? What's the next one? Detect. What do? I do security continuous monitoring. I do detection. This can be software. It's not going to be, Felipe is going to be there 24/7 looking at the screens all day long. He says, then I don't want a job like that. He says, take this job and shove it. You know what I mean? Have you heard that song, right? So he'll say, take this job and shove it. But and also even if he looked at the screen, what does he know? So there's now a number of AI, what's AI? Artificial intelligence that do behavioral analytics and say, if my network starts looking like this, then it's most likely somebody's trying to sniff into the network and going to explore it. So it looks like pattern recognition. And there's software now that allows us to do it. There's hardware and there's software built in, and now what they call is behavioral analysis. They do behavioral analysis on my employees. All of a sudden, Felipe's coming in with that BMW. right? And he's looking really good. And then I ask, and with some of his friends say, oh, I went to the Caribbean, and then I went, to Europe a little bit. And then we say, wait a minute, hold on, doesn't look too good. And then, in this case, then we can detect, now we can respond. And in response, it's the same thing of not only what's my response planning, but how am I going to proceed? This is key, and then how am I going to recover? What's my recovery planning? What are my improvements? What are my communications? And look at what the source is here. You see this, Felipe?
Yeah.
NIST. Now, doesn't that now start making more sense?
Yes.
And if you're going to be in terms of governance, this is what you need to do. So I would look at, if you wanted in terms of study, I would look at that one table that I talked about, Elvia, that I would look at, and then this one. What was this, Exhibit 9-2?
Yes, that's what I'm adding on the notes.
Yeah, so I've done on the notes. Because there's so much stuff in there. I mean, it's too much. You know what I mean? On those. So I want you to understand what's happening. And then the summary of those key terms. And go through, that's how I would study, is I'd look at, so for that chapter 9 is I'd go through the PowerPoints, I'd go through, everybody now know how to go back and look at the quizzes? Yes? Who does not? Okay, so how do I do that? Who found out? Okay, what do you have to do?
You go to your grades.
Okay, so everybody go to your grades. Go to Blackboard if you didn't know how to do that. We need to do that anyways, right? Nico, were you telling me something? Yeah. So let's do that anyways now. That's a good time to do that. So I want to do course stuff. You want to go to your My Grades?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not a student, so you have to go to My Grades, and then where do you have to go?
And then you click the quiz title, and then you click your grade, and then it shows up.
Everybody get that? And this way you can go through it. And so what do we need to do, Nico? You were reminding me?
No, it's just, the new version of the third quiz you posted, there's like, you have 2 attempts, but I got 100 on the first one, and I accidentally clicked it again, and I just submitted it because I didn't feel like doing it again. But it takes your last grade.
Oh.
So it's a 0 instead of
Quiz 9 was only one attempt, or
Okay, let me just see.
because it only.
Okay, so then that's why we're doing it. And then Beauty, we work together as a team, right? So we'll go to quizzes. If there's a mistake, everybody always gets credit for finding my mistakes, right? So I'm going to go privacy. I don't want to do this. I want to cancel. I want to go to my side, right? I want to go to 9. Is it 9?
9.
I want to go to 9. I want to go to edit, the test options, right? And open the test, a new window. I'll say yes.
You didn't allow multiple attempts.
Yeah, that's what.
Oh, okay. You want 2? Okay, I'll do multiple attempts. Okay,
Thank you.
my pleasure.
Can you make the chapter 2 quiz questions accessible to us? too?
Okay, all right. So that's what I'm saying. That's what we want to work together in group, okay? And let me just see. And you got to see your answers and what you submitted. So let me submit. Okay, so we got 9. So what do we need? Chapter 2 has to be what now?
Just make the questions like.
Okay, all right. So let's do that. So we have 2 attempts. Okay, all answers correct and submitted. Let's see if it does it. You tell me, right? We got to give each other feedback. What did we get?
Works now.
Works now. Beauty. Isn't that wonderful when we can work together as a team? Okay. That's what it's all about. So my key to you is in this class also is how to deal with problems in technology. You know what I mean? Things are going to change, but basically, how do you document? How you can control? There's always going to be risk. How do you control? And how do you go back and in agile development keep on working it out? Because you know there's always gonna be problems, and what are the key steps, and how are you gonna document, right? That you've documented those, and that's what I'm saying, that's why we're using the collaboration, the screencasting, the collaborations, the recording, that you can go back and help each other in a team and see what was gone wrong, rather than saying check off, we've checked it off, yes, we have a camera. Yes, we have software, but has anybody ever checked it? And that's why we work together. Okay, so what else is needed? So let me go to, while I'm here, let me go to web links. So, what did I want? Okay, there's another thing in meaningful use. You remember meaningful use? Let me see here. Let me open this in the, I have meaningful use, and you need to know what meaningful use is. Let me see if this one's good. This is meaningful use. Let's see here. Merit-based. No, this is not good. Let's go back. Okay, let's see here. Reading, what's health information, meaningful, health fellows, case studies. We need to know this, what are the benefits of health for improving? Where do we talk, let me just see here if we have another link on meaningful use. This can come down. What about this one? Okay, topic, meaningful use. Let's see here. Meaningful. Okay. They changed the link. Isn't it interesting, huh? Meaningful use. I'll go back. Merit base with the introduction. Office of coordinating. Let's see here. So meaningful use, do we have it in the book? Yes, right?
Yeah.
Huh?
We
No
do.
or yes?
We do.
Okay. So what page in the book? I think we have it in chapter 1. Where's meaningful use in the book?
I'm looking for it right now.
Present healthcare revival of HIT.
It's on chapter 1.
Chapter 1 where? Probably. Patient safety, transparency, office. Here's meaningful use. This one, folks, if you want for our what to study, is this one table 1-1 on meaningful use. You guys, Emma, you want to text each other instead of you're being recorded here. Meaningful use criteria, stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. What's the difference? Everybody understand what the question was? You need to know what's the purpose of meaningful use, and what's the difference between the stage 1, 2, and 3, and why do 3 stages? Who can tell me? Felipe.
Isn't meaningful use just the different the stages in development? I'm not sure if it's the EHR or just technology in general, and data, but also its impact on the the patients and the general population up.
Okay. The whole idea of meaningful use is they call it an EHR. What's an EHR?
Electronic health record.
Okay, so we got an electronic health record and we need to use a certified electronic health record.
Right.
And what's a certified electronic health record then?
Like an example, or what is it?
What is it? Basically, the government says that everyone was gonna use an electronic health record. Yami and I said, you know what? Let's develop an electronic health record. It's such a need here. Me and you set up, we get Felipe to program it and we send it out. And what the problem is we do a crummy electronic health record, right, that doesn't do all the requirements that the government wanted on an electronic health record. So they said if you're gonna buy an electronic health record, it has to be certified,
Right.
that it will follow certain prerequisites. So once we have a certified electronic health record and Emma and I decide we're gonna implement it, she puts it on the server, she uses it from the cloud. What the government wants to say is, are we using as an institution that electronic healthcare that electronic healthcare system? Are we using it properly? Are we using it to the best advantage? Or are we just putting it up there and we don't even use it? Right? Because what we can have here is we can have Roy who says, I'll install it for you. Don't worry about it. We'll get money from the government and we'll move on. So they say, we want to make sure that you're using it in a meaningful manner. So what they do is, Danny, they set up criteria. And they say, Danny, you're in charge now. You do data analytics. So they say, hey, help us. You say, for a fee, I will. But guess what? I can't get you up and running on everything. So what do? You're going to do stages. The beginning stage is just basically track the clinical conditions. Just get in the beginning information for their care coordination. Just get in the beginning reporting of quality measures and get information to engage the families for the better, engage the patients and their families. Put up a portal, start in the beginning. The second stage is start doing HIE, which is what? A health information exchange. Start making it rigorous that you exchange the hospital's information to other parties outside the hospital. Don't start doing that in the first time. We haven't even gotten up and running. What are they going to exchange information? They don't even have information to exchange. The second one doesn't make sense. I want you to read this, Elvira, not just to memorize this, but to make sense. First stage is get the data in and do the basic, get the demographics. The second station is increase the requirements for e-prescribing. Make sure your lab works well. First, stage one is get the patient data in. Stage two, okay, now we can see the e-prescribing works well, right? We can get it to the pharmacy. The next stage, what we can do is incorporate their lab results, because the lab comes from a different part, maybe, from Quest or one of the others. Get that to make it come in. The next part is electronic submissions across multiple settings, kind of like the HIE, right? Get that data to be transferred to other locations and get more patient-controlled data. The patient control their data. The third stage, now we'll talk about improving the quality, safety, efficiency for health outcomes. We're thinking about the population. So do you see that, Cindy? What we're trying to do in the third stage is start looking beyond that individual patient. The third stage, we're starting to improve the quality. What am I going to improve the quality if in stage one I didn't even get the data in? What am I going to improve? What am I going to do in terms of efficiency? I hadn't done it. The next one is decision support for national priority conditions. So for diabetes or congestive heart failure, I'm going to then get the computer to help me make decisions as a physician, as a provider. The third one is patient access to self-management tools to help them do themselves. And the Other one is access to comprehension patient data through the patient HIE. And look at that last one. What does that last one say?
Improving population health.
I can't improve population health until I get the individual patients involved. Doesn't it make sense? So now, how we go along the station is from the individual to the population. How I go through the stages is from the individual to make it more efficient. How I go through it is start thinking about efficiencies. So I would know this table. But you don't have to memorize you don't have to memorize everything in that table, but rather figure it out. I'm going from stage 1 to stage 3. Figure it out. If you were going to implement that, you get Felipe. He said, I got it up and running, but now I got to start implementing. I can't get it up and running. And Yemi knows what the problems were, right, of training everybody. You have to first train them on how to even enter the information. When I'm going to be efficient in population health, I can't even figure out who's supposed to enter the information. And then it will be the idea, how do I get the portal? How do I get everybody's username and all these systems up and running? And training and sponsoring it. So you see here that in this chapter, this is the key. Right? So then what they do is they have some incentives. Do you see there? Why Medicare and Medicaid? Because the government controls this. So the government gives money out so the government can say, hey, based on if you've implemented this correctly, then we can either give you carrots by we can pay you, or we can give you disincentives. If you haven't manipulated it, we'll take money away from you. So those are the keys here, and then when you think about Affordable Care Act and things like that, alternate payments, but you see the idea in which where they want to go. Send, receive, find data domains to improve, expand interoperability, health IT, a learning system by nationwide. So it's the same idea that they're going through. And then we talked about HL7, right? And then the summary, and then the key terms. So you see from chapter 1, you see then those major one. And then the chapter 2, this is a no-brainer. I'm going from data to information to knowledge. You need to know those differences, right? I can't get knowledge unless I get the proper data. Then I can get information, and then I can get knowledge, and then I can create these knowledge-based systems that will not replace physicians, but will aid physicians, and in some, maybe replace some of those positions as well, where I'm going to get those, as we talked about, the computer-assisted, the AI, the machine learning that starts to deal with that. And then they deal with EMRs and EHRs. What else do I need to, personal records, let me see here. You need to know this SOAP, right? Or is my subjective findings, my objective findings, my assessment and plan. Let me see what else here. These are just my claims. And about my data, my ACD-10, different ways to do my data. Health in my database and data warehouse. We talked about this. This is a key here. My database generally refers to structured data. The data warehouse is historical, or is it real time? Historical. My data warehouse is historical. My database is in real time, right? this is another thing that you need to know, is what's the characteristic of data here, is the volume, the variety, and the velocity. Okay, here is just sample data, I don't even know for you. What is my data here? You need to know about the quality characteristics of my data. It kind of makes sense. It has to be accurate. I have to access. I have to understand it. It has to be consistent. It has to be relevant. It has to be timely. It has to be complete. A lot of times when you do data mining exercises, the reason 80% of my problems with my data mining is because my data is not complete, or it's not correct, or it's not current. What other things do I need to do here? The patience, I don't need to know this. And then you have the key terms. Okay? And then what did I need? 3 then is healthcare information systems, right? With key terms. What are my key terms here? Health IT, patient portals, difference between my systems, and what's chapter 4 is data analytics. We talked about it, and my key terms is stratification. We talked about what is stratification. Anybody remember?
It's a way of kind of sifting through and putting specific people in different areas.
Correct.
to help you.
And business intelligence, basically in a way in which gives people a summary of what they need to know and get people to be more engaged. So what I would have in terms, so that'll be the multiple choice, and what I would, in open-ended questions, would know about, I would say, is know the MU with the stages, what it is, what are those stages, what's the reasoning behind it, and also the security rule, and know those administrative, physical, and technical.
Administrative, physical, technical, security rules?
What?
Security rules, administrative security rules, physical, okay.
And the automated trading systems. Indicator versus strategies, algorithms, forecasts versus backtesting. I don't want to have any surprises. So those are the open-ended. Yes, Deb.
So for multiple choice, you want us to go over chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, and 9?
Mm-hmm. I didn't write that. Yeah.
1, 2, 4, and 9.
Chapters, right? The ones we have quizzes on, right? 1 through 4 and 9. What else?
For our exam on Wednesday, are we gonna have class after taking the exam?
What I may do is this, because I think after everybody takes the exam, they want to go. Don't you think so? I mean, that don't feel, it's like, when I run, I don't want to, and I stop, I don't want to continue running again. you know, so that's how I view it, you know what I mean? When I go run a distance and then I say, let me stop, you know how they have those running, they say that's supposed to be good, run, stop, that's not for me. I run and then I'm in. So what I'll probably do in the beginning of the class is I'll do a mini review. So we'll meet, so if somebody was saying they're gonna be like 5 minutes late or something, they had an exam before, is we'll do a mini review. I answer all those, your questions kind of like shortly about your questions. I read this, this didn't make sense. And then I will maybe go over some things for the following week that we'll need. I'll do like a mini lecture of what we need and then give the exam. Rather, you know what I mean, of what we need to know, what I think is important. We'll probably have a guest speaker when we come back too, and I want to prepare you for the guest speaker, and I'll give additional quizzes and, you know, chapters. So I'd rather do my mini, don't you agree? I'd rather do my mini lecture before you take the exam, and then you can stay as long, people take longer than others, people have other issues, they need longer time to take the exam and so forth. Other people finish quicker, so I'd rather just do it that way. Any problems with that? I think that makes more sense. Don't you agree? Than the other way. Then come back, and then we have to wait for everybody, and then I rush other people. You know, this way you have more time, you can take your time in doing as long as you want. The open-ended questions, you know what I mean? Sometimes people need to think about it more. And then bring your one sheet of paper with your acronyms. My whole idea is, and then after we finish this part, everybody knows the foundations, then we'll start working on our projects. And then we'll figure out what we're gonna do. So I will do a lecture, since we do have, we really go from 6:30 to 9. I will do a part lecture, but my lecture will be to prepare you for the following week, because we can't, you know what I mean, we can't really skip another week. So I'll do my week. Also, I'm here on Monday, I teach from 5 to around 6:15, so you can come by here, and if you have some questions, you want me to help you with your homework, you know, with your forecasts and so forth, you can come and I'll be more than happy to help you. Or you have other questions about the exam or preparing for the exam, we'll do that. What else? Deb, did you have any other questions? Deb, do you have a question, or you were just getting ready?
No, I don't have a question.
Okay. Anyone else? You all look tired. They said I'm tired. And I'm projecting. No, but I'll be here for it. I think that's enough, no? So you got this, we have it. So you can, you need to do your project. You can show me what you have. I'll be happy to do that. And then we'll work out on next Wednesday. We'll also start give you preparations for your project too. So we'll do that. Cindy will do the first part lecture and then take the exam. Makes more sense. You agree? Then that way everybody, we don't have to wait for everybody to finish. Makes sense. Okay. You're welcome. Thank you. Hi, how are you? Kate, what happened to you? I haven't seen you in a long time. So I haven't seen you for a couple weeks. What's going on?
Oh, it was just last week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was just last week.
Okay, yeah, we had 1 week off.
I just saw that you can do that on.
Okay, so have you done your homework, the forecast?
Oh, yeah, everything's
Oh,
up
okay,
there. I
so
watched your class
Oh,
online.
okay,
I stopped it.
okay, can you do the same here?